We can use Camtasia Studio to record a PowerPoint presentation and then edit it inside of Camtasia Studio. But before we do that, we need to first check and make sure that your Camtasia Studio PowerPoint add-in has been properly configured inside of Camtasia Studio. To do that, simply go up to the Tools menu of Camtasia Studio and select Options. When your Options window opens up, you'll want to select the second tab, which is PowerPoint. And in the PowerPoint add-in section, you want to make sure that the Enable PowerPoint add-in checkbox has been checked. If not, go ahead and check that box. This should automatically be done for you at the time your Camtasia Studio was installed on your system, but it's a good idea to go in here and just check and make sure that that's set. Then simply go down to the bottom and click the OK button. Now we're finished inside of Camtasia Studio, and we can go configure the add-in inside of PowerPoint. Go ahead and open up your copy of PowerPoint and look for the Add-ins tab over here on the right-hand side. Click one time on that tab, you should be able to find the Camtasia toolbar. The toolbar is pretty simple to use. The first button here is what we'll use when we're ready to record our presentation. Next, we can make sure that the audio coming out of our microphone is going to be captured by making sure that this option is set to on. The next option allows us to use a webcam if we have one attached to our computer to capture a live shot of our presenter. This is great for creating picture-in-picture or doing lecture capture. The next option allows us to see a preview of our camera so that we can make sure that our shot is set up correctly if we're using a webcam to capture. The next option is the one that we want to go into now, and that's the Camtasia Studio Recordings options. Click one time on that button in order to open up the options window. We'll go through each of these items. We'll talk about a setup that should work for you. And the first option here is Start Recording Pause. This is a really good idea. When you press the record button, your presentation is going to go full screen, and Camtasia Studio will start off in a paused state so that you can take a moment to gather your thoughts, prepare to do your presentation, and then when you're ready, either press the Start Recording button or use the key sequence of Control-Shift-F9 to begin recording. To the right, we're able to choose whether or not we want to include a watermark. Now, if you check this box, you can enter the watermark preferences by clicking on the watermark button. Here, the watermark options window will open up, and you could choose a custom image that you can have as a watermark. Down at the bottom of the window, you can see a preview as to what your watermark will look like on screen. You can apply various different effects, such as adjusting the opacity of the watermark, or adjust the scaling. You can choose to preserve the normal image size, or you can choose to scale the image to any size that's appropriate for your particular presentation. Finally, you can choose where you want the watermark to appear. By default, it should show up here in the lower right-hand corner, but if you would rather have it appear in the upper left, upper right, maybe in the center, or any of these particular locations, you simply click on the button and it will show you how the watermark is going to look on your first slide. When you're happy with your settings, you can click the OK button if you want to include the watermark. I'm going to go ahead and click the Cancel button and not include a watermark for this training. Next, you can choose whether or not you want the mouse cursor to be recorded during the presentation. This is a personal preference. If you want to have your mouse recorded, go ahead and leave the box checked. For my purposes, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the Record Mouse Cursor so that the mouse does not appear as a distraction to my viewers that may be watching this particular presentation. We can then choose whether or not we want Camtasia Studio to open up our CamRec file and create our CamProj file so we can edit the file inside of Camtasia Studio. We'll go ahead and leave this option checked so we can then go directly into editing. At the end of our presentation, we can set a preference to say how we want Camtasia Studio to react. The drop-down menu gives us three options. The first is to just simply continue recording. This is a very good option if you're going to intersperse PowerPoint slides with work in another application on your machine and you want to continue recording between PowerPoint and some other application. You can choose to have Camtasia Studio prompt you as to whether or not you want to continue recording or end recording, or you can simply stop recording at the end of the presentation. For our purposes, we're going to go ahead and select Stop Recording so that as soon as we're finished, the recording will go ahead and automatically end. The two options that I prefer here are either Stop Recording or Continue Recording. I rarely want to be prompted to choose whether or not I want to continue recording or not, simply because it tends to break the flow up of your work. The next section allows us to choose some of the audio and video preferences that we may want to use during our recording. And the first is the video frame rate. Now, if you have a PowerPoint presentation that has a lot of animations and a lot of movement in it, you may want to have a frame rate set up as high as 30 frames per second. However, in our presentation that we're working with, it's a fairly simple presentation, so 15 frames per second should more than suffice. By setting our frame rate to a lower rate, it will help us maintain a smaller file size for our CamRec file. Here we can choose whether or not we want to record audio, and we can select our microphone input source. In my case, I'm going to be using my Yeti stereo microphone that I've been using throughout this training. You may have a different option here for your setting, so go ahead and select your microphone. If you need to, you can adjust the volume setting here for your microphone, and you see a preview of your audio levels. Next, we can choose whether or not we want to have system audio captured. In this particular presentation, there is no additional audio that's present. However, in some presentations, you may have audio that's included as part of your PowerPoint presentation, and you would want to capture that. If that's the case, leave this box checked. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this box for now. Since I'm not recording a camera, I don't need to worry about the picture-in-picture or recording the video from the camera. Finally, we can set up our recording hotkeys. The default settings are for Control, Shift, F9 to act as our record and pause keyboard command, and Control, Shift, and F10 to stop our recording. If you want to change these keyboard commands here, you can do so by simply clicking the drop-down menu and change to one of the other options. Just be sure not to set your keyboard command to something that's already used inside of your application. When you're happy with your settings, go ahead and click the OK button. And in the next movie, we'll step through making sure that your PowerPoint presentation itself is optimized for capture by Camtasia Studio.